You don't need to know my name. And if you ever find out where I live, don't come looking for me. I'm not lost. I'm not hiding. I'm warning you. Every person mentioned here has had their name changed. Families have suffered enough already without strangers digging around online, trying to play detective. So if you're reading this thinking you can help, don't. Stay away from these woods. I've been a search and rescue volunteer for over 5 years. In that time, I've pulled for people out of the wild, most of them dehydrated hikers who simply stepped off trail and panicked. But what happened with Kevin? It wasn't a rescue. It was a curse. Kevin was 14. Had gone backpacking with his dad, a 4-day trip. That should have ended a lifetime of father-son memories. When they didn't come home after 6 days, his mother called for help. 2 days later we found their campsite, or what was left of it. The tent had been ripped apart, canvas hanging in ribbons. Blood spattered every tree trunk, the dirt soaked dark red. A few strands of hair clung to a snapped branch. A piece of bone lay half buried in the leaves. We found the father not far from camp. Both arms gone. One leg missing. The rest chewed. His stomach was opened wide like a gutted deer, and a nest of maggots riffed inside. But there was no sign of the boy. For 3 endless weeks, we swept those woods, every ravine, every gully, hoping to find even a footprint. Every day our hope shrank a little more. That morning started like all the others. Boots crunching over pine needles. Radios hissing static. My partner Charles chewing on a protein bar like he hated the taste of survival. By late afternoon the sun was slipping behind the trees, painting everything in rust-colored light. My legs ached. My throat burned. Still no trace. I don't think we're gonna find this kid, Charles muttered through a mouthful of crumbs. And if we do, it'll be a body. Then we carry the body, I snapped. Or do you want to explain to his mum that you got tired? He glared at me, but stayed quiet. We walked on. The forest swallowed our voices until only the crunch of leaves and the whisper of wind remained. Then Charles' satellite phone chirped. Static. A short report. Nothing new. The other teams haven't found Jack either, he sighed. Another damn day wasted. Give it 1 more hour, I told him. Then we head back. He didn't argue. As the light faded, the woods began to change. Colors bled into shadow. The air turned colder, heavier. And though we were the only ones moving, I couldn't shake the feeling that something else was walking with us, quietly matching our pace. Just beyond sight. When Charles finally called for a break, we dropped our packs beside a fallen log. My knees popped when I sat. The silence was thick, pressing against my eardrums. Even the insects had stopped. Charles rummaged through his bag, pulling out a water bottle and an orange-barreled flare gun. Since when do you carry that? I asked. He smirked. Since last week. Figured it might come in handy. He had no idea how right he was. The air had gone still, unnaturally still. Not a single bird called. No rustle of wind. Just the sound of Charles unwrapping another protein bar. The faint crunch echoing like thunder in that silence. That's when we heard it, a soft rustling behind us. Both of us froze. No words. Just a quick glance between us and the sound of our own breathing. Then, from between the pines, a figure stepped into view. A boy. Dirty. Torn clothes. Skin pale and stretched too tight over his bones. He looked like he hadn't seen daylight in months. Jesus, Charles whispered, already standing. Kevin. The boy blinked slowly, like he didn't understand the question. His lips moved, but the sound that came out was barely more than a rasp. I'm lost. We hurried to him, but the closer we got, the more wrong he looked. I'd memorized Kevin's photo, brown hair, round cheeks, soft brown eyes. The boy in front of me had no hair at all. No eyebrows, no stubble. Just smooth, raw-looking skin. But those eyes, the color was the same. Hey, buddy, Charles said, dropping his pack. You're safe now. We've been looking for you for weeks. He handed the boy a cookie and a bottle of Gatorade. Kevin's shaking hands took them like he'd forgotten how to use his fingers. He broke off a piece, popped it into his mouth, and immediately started coughing. A dry, violent, body-racking cough that doubled him over. "Ho ho, easy," I said, stepping closer. "You okay?" He spat into the dirt, gasping. When he looked up again, tears lined those wide brown eyes. "It burns," he croaked. "What burns?" Charles asked. "The cookie." Kevin nodded weakly. "Everything I eat hurts. But I'm so hungry." His stomach growled loudly, like something alive was moving inside. He stared at the cookie for a second, then shoved the rest into his mouth. He trembled as he swallowed. Charles shot me a nervous glance. "This kid needs a hospital." He radioed dispatch, his voice tight. "We found him. Alive. Looks malnourished, maybe infected. Requesting evac ASAP." While Charles talked, I knelt beside Kevin. "What happened out there?" He stared past me, eyes blank. "Something pulled me out of the tent." "Bit me." "Bit you?" I echoed. "Where?" He tugged down the collar of his shirt. The wound made my stomach twist. A massive, crescent-shaped bite covered his shoulder, flesh torn and bruised purple. Edges swollen and crusted with dried blood. The teeth marks were huge, spaced far apart. Whatever did it had a mouth big enough to crush a man's head whole. "How long ago?" I asked. He just shook his head. "I don't know. It feels old." Charles finished his call and crouched beside me. "We won't get a chopper till morning," he said. "They're tied up with other rescues." Of course they were. "There's an old cabin nearby," he continued, checking his GPS. "We can make it before dark." I looked back at Kevin. The boy nodded slowly, exhaustion clouding his face, but something else flickering in his eyes. An animal-like focus, a silent will to move. "All right," I said. "Let's get you home." The walk was long and suffocating. No birds, no insects, just 3 sets of footsteps crunching dead leaves. But something about the forest felt wrong. Every sound we made seemed too loud, like the trees themselves were listening. When the cabin finally appeared through the fog, I almost didn't believe it was real. A rotting wooden shell swallowed by vines, leaning like it wanted to collapse. The door hung crooked, and the smell of damp rot leaked through the cracks. Still, it was shelter. For the night, that was enough. The cabin was falling apart. Every board creaked. Every nail moaned. The place smelled of wet wood, rust, and dust older than time. We stepped inside, flashlights slicing through the dark. Cobwebs clung to the corners like old wounds, and the air was thick with mildew. A rusted stove leaned against the wall, long dead, and a table sat on 3 uneven legs, ready to collapse. It wasn't safe, but it was all we had. Charles and I set our packs down. Kevin sat against the wall trembling, his skin so pale it almost glowed in the beam of my flashlight. He looked half alive, half dreaming, like something still deciding whether to keep him human. We ate quietly. Canned beans, protein bars, the kind of food that fills you but never feels like food. Kevin ate slow. Each bite looked like pain. Sometimes he'd flinch, drop the spoon, cough until his throat rattled. But he kept eating anyway. Hunger stronger than reason. When he finally stopped, he leaned back, closing his eyes. For a moment, he looked like any other kid, just a lost boy who'd been through hell. Charles tried to lighten the mood. He dabbed a deck of cards out of his bag. "All right, gentlemen," he said, grinning tiredly. "Game night in the apocalypse." We laughed, real laughter, for the first time that day. It didn't last long. Outside, the wind began to howl through the cracks. Inside, the cabin seemed to breathe with us, the walls groaning in rhythm, the floor pulsing faintly beneath our feet. Kevin smiled weakly at one of Charles' bad jokes. Then he froze. His face changed, like a light had gone out behind his eyes. His breathing hitched. "You good, kid?" Charles asked. Kevin didn't answer. His hand trembled. Then his whole body jerked forward violently. A wet, choking sound filled the cabin. He vomited across the floor, beans, bile, blood, splattering the cards and our boots. The smell hit a second later, thick and sour. Jesus Christ, I muttered, stumbling back. Kevin gasped between heaves, eyes wide, lips trembling. It burns, he whispered, voice thin. It's burning inside me. He gagged again, harder this time, and something sharp clattered across the floor. Teeth. His own teeth. They scattered across the wood like white pebbles. Charles froze mid-step. What the hell? Kevin's coughing turned to screaming. His throat bulged unnaturally, his body arching and twisting as if something inside was trying to claw its way out. Then came the sound, bones cracking, popping, rearranging. Jesus, Kevin! I shouted. But he wasn't Kevin anymore. His jaw split wider than it should have. His skin tore like wet paper, veins pulsing beneath it. His chest swelled. His back snapped. The shirt split open, fabric giving way to black, bristling hair pushing through pale skin. The air filled with the sound of breaking bones and tearing flesh. I stumbled backward, slipping on the blood-slick floor, flashlight beam shaking across a nightmare. Kevin's frail body twisted violently, his limbs stretching, reshaping. Nails darkening into curved claws that scraped the wood. His spine cracked like a whip, bending at impossible angles. Charles screamed and grabbed the fire poker from beside the stove. I pulled my knife, though I knew it wouldn't matter. Kevin, or what used to be Kevin, let out a noise he'll never forget. Not a howl, not human. Something between a growl and a scream, wet and broken, full of hunger. Then it looked at us. Those brown eyes, still there, but drowning in yellow light. Kevin's body convulsed like something was tearing him apart from the inside. The snapping of bones echoed like gunfire in the small cabin. His skin stretched, split, bled, then new flesh pushed through the seams, pulsing and slick. The thing inside him was winning. He gasped, a long, broken, animal noise as his neck snapped back at an impossible angle. Then his jaw tore open wider than any humans could. Something black and wet forced its way out of his mouth, a muzzle, twitching, snarling, dripping red. Charles screamed, firing the flare gun by instinct. The red light flashed against the blood-stained walls, but the creature only flinched. Its eyes rolled white for a moment, then glowed a feral yellow. Catching the moonlight through the window, it stood up, and what stood before us wasn't a boy anymore. Its body was human no longer, stretched, elongated, bones bending into shapes nature never intended. Purple-gray skin pulled tight over unnatural muscles, veins bulging like cords. Coarse black hair spread in patches across its back and arms. Fingers cracked and extended, nails splitting into hooked claws. It was part man, part beast, and fully nightmare. The air filled with the smell of rot and iron. The creature's chest heaved, sucking in air with a deep, rattling growl that vibrated through the cabin walls. Charles raised the poker. "Stay back," he yelled. The thing turned its head toward him, slow, deliberate, almost curious. Then it lunged. The impact was like a car crash. Charles flew backward into the wall, wood splintering on impact. His weapon clattered away. "Charles!" I shouted, grabbing my knife, but the beast was already on him, claws slashing, teeth tearing. Charles screamed, thrashing beneath it. Blood sprayed across the room in heavy, wet arcs. I ran forward, drove my knife deep into the creature's side. It howled a horrible, gurgling sound that shook my bones, then swung its arm backward and hit me hard across the chest. I flew into the corner, crashing into the stove. Pain exploded through my ribs. When I looked up, Charles was still fighting, barely. He swung the fire poker again, hitting the beast in the ribs. It stumbled, growling, but then slashed him open with one savage motion. I'll never forget the sound, the ripping of fabric and flesh as his stomach opened like a zipper. Blood soaked the floorboards. Charles fell, twitching, still holding the poker even as his body gave up. The creature paused. Then it lowered its head and began to feed. The sound was obscene. Chewing, tearing, slurping. A wet, rhythmic horror that filled the cabin like some grotesque ritual. I couldn't breathe. My lungs burned, my vision blurred. Then I saw it, the flare gun, lying in a pool of blood near my hand. I grabbed it. The thing heard me. It looked up, its mouth soaked in red, eyes blazing yellow, breath steaming. Then it moved fast, crawling on all fours like a spider, closing the distance in seconds. It lunged, jaws open, and I fired. The flare hit it dead in the face. The scream that followed wasn't human. The creature reeled back, its head engulfed in fire. It clawed at its burning skin, thrashing violently, knocking furniture over as flames spread up its hair, its shoulders, its chest. The smell of scorched flesh filled the cabin. Smoke rose in thick, choking waves. The walls caught fire. Curtains curled into ash. I stumbled for the door, ribs stabbing with every breath. Behind me, the beast wailed a sound that would never leave my memory. When I finally burst outside, the night air hit me like ice. I collapsed to the ground, gasping, the sound of the cabin burning behind me. The woods flickering orange and black. The flames roared louder, and beneath them, I still heard it screaming. I woke up to silence. No birds, no wind, just the soft crackle of dying fire. For a few seconds, I didn't know where I was. Then the smell hit me, smoke, ash, burnt meat, and everything came rushing back. The cabin was gone. Only its black skeleton remained, charred timbers clawing at the morning sky. The air shimmered with heat, thin trails of smoke rising from what used to be walls. Pain should have been the first thing I felt, but there was none. Not in my ribs. Not in my arm, the same arm that thing had bitten through. I lifted my sleeve and froze. The wound was there but healed. A deep scar, smooth and pale, like months had passed overnight. That's when I realized something was wrong. My stomach twisted, not from pain, but hunger. A deep, gnawing hunger that felt ancient, instinctive, unstoppable. I stumbled through the wreckage, searching for anything to eat, anything. Charlie's backpack lay half buried in ash. I tore it open. Inside, a granola bar. I ripped the wrapper and shoved it into my mouth. Instant regret. A sharp pain stabbed my gums, followed by a crunch. I spat it out. 2 teeth landed in the dirt. My hands shook. I ran my tongue along the gap, smooth, empty, bleeding. No, I whispered. No, 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 my fingers went to my hair. It came out in clumps, tufts of it, sliding off my scalp like dead grass. Whatever happened to Kevin was happening to me. I looked around. The forest was still. The sun filtered weakly through the smoke. Charlie's body lay nearby, or what was left of him. The creature's corpse, blackened and cold, steamed faintly in the ashes. My hunger sharpened. The smell of cooked flesh made my mouth water. I turned away, disgusted with myself, horrified at what my body wanted. I knew then what was coming. The bite hadn't killed me. It had claimed me. I don't know how long I wandered. Hours, maybe days. The forest never ended, just trees and fog and the faint echo of my own heartbeat. Every step felt heavier. My thoughts blurred, my breath came in low growls I didn't recognize as my own. I could feel it, something inside me shifting, creeping closer to the surface. I told myself I had to die before it happened, before I became the thing that killed Kevin, before I killed anyone. I found my knife buried in the ashes, its blade blackened and dull. I tried, God, I tried, but my hand wouldn't obey. My arm trembled, stopped halfway, like something else was pulling the strings. So I ran. Somewhere behind me, I heard the faint chopping of helicopter blades. Search and rescue, my own people, coming to finish what I started. But they couldn't find me. I wouldn't let them. Branches tore at my skin. Roots caught at my boots. Still, I kept running, deeper into the wilderness until the sound of the blades was gone, swallowed by the trees. Finally, I collapsed near a clearing, gasping for air. The satellite phone buzzed in my pocket, still alive, still connected. My last lifeline. I opened it and started typing this. Every letter feels like it takes hours. My fingers shake too much to hit the right keys. But someone needs to know. Someone has to read it. The sun is setting now. The light is bleeding out between the trees. And I can already feel it happening, the hunger twisting inside me, the bones shifting again. The moon will rise soon. And when it does, it'll be gone. What comes after me is me. It won't think. It won't speak. It will hunt. If you find this message, if you ever see the smoke from the cabin, if you ever hear howling in these woods, run. Don't stop. Don't look back. I'm not lost. I don't want to be found. This isn't a call for help. It's a warning. Stay out of these woods, please, before it finds you too.